things I want to talk about today. I want to talk about why the 911 call hasn't been released. I want to return to that 4chan post. And I want to talk about a live that Melissa Jade had the other night. And I want to address some questions that were sent my way. Let's first talk about the 911 call. A lot of people are suspicious about the 911 call not being released. They think that it's indicative or a sign that there's a cover-up going on, that something happened in that call, something was said in that call that made law enforcement look bad, or revealed something that law enforcement didn't want out there. Now, I happen to think that's true. I do think that those calls had information in there that law enforcement didn't want out there. Now, these calls are typically sent to the media once the press submits an FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act. And the press gets the 911 call and they play it. But there are some cases where those calls are not given, maybe because there's a minor, maybe it's too gruesome, maybe there's information pertaining to the investigation that they don't want out there, or maybe there's information on the 911 call that puts people in danger. And that's what I think is happening with this 911 call. We know that multiple people were on that call. I think that it was revealed in that call that not only were there survivors, but there were witnesses. And like I've said, I think they've been oddly quiet about Bethany. I think Bethany saw more than we're being told. But I think that information was in the 911 call, and police were being really, really cautious about that information getting out there because there was still a suspect out there, and that would put the surviving roommates in danger. And if you'll notice in this press conference clip, Chief Fry very quickly corrects himself when he's asked about the roommates.
Heather Roberts with ABC News. Just to follow up on what she asked, so the other two roommates were there at the time of the attack?
All the information that we have from our investigation is that, yes, they were.
Okay, but they were unhurt.
That is correct.
So is there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there.
Now, in the clip, a journalist confirms with Chief Fry that there were other roommates home. But when a journalist refers to the roommates as witnesses, he very quickly clarifies and says, I don't believe I said that they were witnesses. He's being very cautious there because he doesn't want that information out. And once a suspect was in custody, they're still not safe, because what if they didn't get the right person? But once they did have somebody in custody, within a few days the gag order was issued, and the 911 call couldn't be released. Now I want to talk about that 4chan post. Every time I revisit it, I notice something new. And while recording a podcast episode a while ago, I noticed something. And I'll post the 4chan messages here so you can see what I'm talking about. In these messages, the author refers to DNA, CODIS, and pings. Now, I can see a college student knowing one of those, maybe two. I don't see a college student, some frat guy, who isn't in a major that doesn't involve this information. I don't see your typical college frat guy knowing all of these things. I do, however, see somebody who is familiar with criminal justice and criminology knowing these things. Just a thought. Now I want to talk about Melissa Jade's live the other night, and I'll post a link in the episode description. Melissa Jade interviewed Brat Norton, who is a true crime creator on TikTok. Brat is the person that was exchanging messages with Steve G, messages that I posted to this channel. I'm going to play a clip from this interview, and I'll just share my thoughts on it.
Do you think it was a wrong move, though, to share? Like, look what happened. Look at the butterfly effect, the ripple effect. It ended up all over the internet, So do you think that was a bad move?
That came from character analysis. You can ask her that.
Well, and I don't want to get into, because then if we do that, I want to give her the right to respond. So without that,
well, she's the one who shared them to the internet. I did not.
Now, in this clip, Brat is saying, well, you're going to have to ask character analysis that. She's the one who shared them to the internet. You know, I'm going to challenge that. She said that she only sent them to 4 or 5 people and something about an NDA. I'm just going to say it. I don't believe her. Because I know people who have the messages. But even in addition to the people that I know who have the messages, doing research, I came across Daniel from Drunk Turkey in the chat on an episode of True Crime Cafe saying Brat sent the messages to him. I have one of Brat's own Discord members on Reddit as recently as last week talking about how she's seen the messages in real life. And on the subject of Sublive, Brat admits she showed those messages on a Sublive. She has 200 subscribers. I don't know how many she had at the time, but she had a decent amount. So, who leaked the messages? Because these messages would never have gotten out if Brat hadn't been near desperate to show people that she had them. Here's a comment where Brat said she never intended for those messages to be leaked. Never. Okay. Well, I found this screenshot, and this is a conversation that Brat had with somebody who has an audience. She clearly admits to having sent the messages, oh, please don't tell anybody, oh, I feel so bad. But then she says that she's going to let Paramount do it. And I'm assuming she's referring to the messages getting out there. Because she talks about, well, I know they're going to get out there eventually. I'm going to let Paramount do it. So it sounds to me, and maybe my reading comprehension skills are on the fritz today, but it sounds to me like she gave them those messages in the hopes that Paramount would post them, would release them. Sounds to me like she was very well aware of the real possibility that they were going to release those messages, and she gave them to them anyway. And I know she's going to say NDA, NDA, but it's very clear at that last line that she thinks or hopes that those messages are going to be released by Paramount. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the 911 call? Do you think that there's some kind of cover-up going on? Do you think there's a reason why the 911 call hasn't been released? And if so, what is it? And what do you think about what I found in the 4chan post? And finally, what do you think about the whole Steve G message leak? Leave your thoughts in the comments.